Thank you, Marcelo. I'm really honored to be here. Thank you, Chancellor Marcelo. I'm really honored to be here addressing you. So I want to thank the Pontifical Academy of Social Sciences for inviting me. My own work is on the science of climate change, basically trying to figure out how the pollutant gases we put into the atmosphere trap the heat and then change the climate. I was elected to the Pontifical Academy of Sciences about 15 years ago. Coming to the meetings here has profoundly influenced me, so that I broadened my interest from just doing the science to seeking solutions. So let me just give you a brief background about climate change. I hope you'll all agree with me that we are in a crisis stage with respect to climate change. The system is making tremendous amount of noises in the form of heat waves, floods, hurricanes, droughts, fires, unstable melting of the glaciers, and numerous others. So I have published about 2 years ago a study in which I concluded in about 10 years from now, we would transition into what's called dangerous climate change. We will pass that threshold where the effects could be amplified by 50% compared to what we have experienced so far. And so far, the adults have turned largely a deaf ear to the seriousness of the situation. Sure, there's tremendous amount of media attention, but if you look at the actions we have taken, it's not much. So the only hopeful sign I see is the youth movement. They have finally understood what the scientists have been saying all along. And so if we continue to ignore the problem, again, this is a study I published and others have come to the same conclusion, that in about few decades, we would transition into the climate change morphing into an existential threat. Fortunately, there is still time to take action. The thing we have to recognize, because of the delays in the actions we have delayed, that has become a huge ethical, moral issue. So in terms of solution, we first need to accept the Pope Francis's call for integral ecology, which in my view is one of the first, if not few, documents which recognizes the intrinsic link between environmental justice and social justice. Okay? So first, why are we not taking the sort of actions we need to take? It is in part due to lack of strong, unequivocal public support. So what we need is societal transformation to garner such support. That requires education at all levels of citizenry and communities. So I've concluded, largely because of attending meetings here, I'll show you some examples soon, the quest for a sustainable planet and for a sustainable humanity must include cradle-to-grave climate literacy for everyone, including children in kindergarten, students in colleges, and adults, all the way to senior citizens. We heard from David Bloom how the senior citizen population is going to explode. So we need to educate them too. I'm going to outline such a cradle-to-grave education project called Bending the Curve, Climate Solutions, that's been initiated by academics and researchers at the University of California. Lest you think that it's California just doing everything, such efforts are going many, many places. I want to recognize a major effort initiated by Professor Pierre Lénard from in Paris, and they already have an education program for school students. So the first meeting, I said this, this academy influenced me tremendously. The first one was organized by Paul Crutzen, another academician, myself, and Chancellor Sanchez-Serrano. This was about 9 years ago. What moved me about this, it was one of the most, very strong scientific document, documenting how the Alps are melting away, how the Himalayan glaciers are melting away. But we ended that document with the statement, I give full credit for this to our Chancellor, we call on all people and nations to recognize the serious and potential irreversible impacts of global warming. We have known this for at least 20 years. This is a catastrophic problem, right? And then we conclude that if we want justice and peace, we must protect the habitat that sustains us, the believers among us, ask God to grant us this wish. 3 years later, this was initially initiated under Pope Benedict, and then we held this meeting with Pope Francis. So what we concluded there, mind you, this meeting of physical scientists, Nobel laureates in physics, chemistry, and theologians. So this was held jointly between the two academies, Professor Partha Dasgupta from the Social Science Academy and myself from the Academy of Sciences. Along with Archbishop Minerath and Chancellor Serrano, we organized this. We concluded sustainable relationship with nature requires change in attitude towards nature and towards each other, and therefore requires moral leadership. That statement made it clear to me the solution to this problem requires alliance between academics, faith leaders, and decision makers. Then we said the transformational step may well be a massive mobilization of public opinion, and I'll return to that point later, by the Vatican and other religions for collective action to safeguard the well-being of both humanity and the environment. So I returned from this meeting in 2014. Almost looked like a divine intervention. I get an email from our president, not president of US, but president of the University of California, Janet Napolitano, asking me to lead a study of all 10 campuses and arrive at 10 solutions to the problem. So we launched this, and this sort of circle diagram indicates what we concluded. In the center is science. Of course, science tells you what to do, but it doesn't know how to do it. So the outer circle is our 5 pillars of how to implement it. And mind you, this 50 faculty included social scientists, engineers, economists, and climate scientists, and including theologians. We concluded the top pillar should be societal transformation. What was clear to me, and meeting with these experts, is that we are not solving this problem not because we lack technologies, not because we lack governance, not because we have market ideas like cap and trade, etc. We are just not solving this because the public has not given us the sort of support we need to make drastic changes. So it's that societal transformation led us to think of education as a tool to make that transformation. So we launched what's called Bending the Curve Education Protocol for college students, high school teachers, and professionals. This has 4 components. The first one is what we call Bending the Curve, a hybrid course. I will describe that and come to the other 3 components. So what we have done, assembled top 23 experts from all 10 campuses, and also there's a few lectures from Yale University, a theologian. And we videotaped these lectures, 18 lectures, and the multidisciplinary aspect of it. Students are expected to listen to the video and come to the class prepared to discuss using the flipped classroom style. So there were 8 media labs were involved in this, and we launched it initially with 5 campuses. Now it's being taught at Stockholm University. We piloted it, and we piloted it at Taiwan. And so let me just describe to you what it has. It has an overview describing the complete syllabus. There is an instructor's guide, and then we have a student's guide, okay? So it's done at a level, you don't have to be a physics or chemistry major. You don't have to be a math major. At UC, we conduct this class with arts majors, social science majors, and natural science majors. At the end of the class, they're graded by the thing that everyone has to come with a solutions project, which is locally relevant, okay? We also this was funded by Bill Gates. We just published a digital book empowered by the California Digital Library. It's available for free to everyone as supporting stuff. The primary focus is on solutions. And now UC is licensing to other campuses. We are trying to take it to 2-year colleges, community colleges, etc. I want to move on to the next one. The second component there is an online version of this course, so that I can sit at UC San Diego and teach students in all 10 campuses. We are piloting it next quarter. And we're trying to do it in the California State University system, which is 25 campuses. And the next one we are doing to address the professionals is a MOOC. So we are breaking this into 3 sub-courses, and the University of California will give a licensing. So this is, we are hoping, would, people working in the space at United Nations, wherever they happen to be, so they can get educated on this. Again, the focus here is on solutions, not too much on the science part of it. The next one, this was really led by our chairman of this conference, Marcelo Suarez Orozco, myself, and 2 senior vice chancellors from California State University. So we formed this new program for empowering all pre-K to 12 children on climate literacy. There are 33 campuses involved, 760,000 students. And we train 56% of all school teachers from pre-K to 12. So we held a summit. Major leaders from the California system came to the summit at UCLA, and we released a report. And one of our primary recommendations from that report is that we are not saying teach these kids climate change, but integrate environmental and climate change literacy across all subjects: biology, physics, chemistry, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? So this is just getting started. I want to conclude with the last one. This addresses the fact, this may be a little bit American-centric, addresses the fact that climate change has become politicized. So much politicized, it's impossible for scientists to talk to the public on this topic. I'm always asked, which side do you belong? So I learned from that we need an educational approach where we unpack climate change from all the issues that divide America. So I've held numerous discussions with leaders from the Catholic community and evangelical community and theologians. And so we are just about ready to launch this education project. What we want to do is, right at the start, bring faith leaders and priests and bishops about how to teach this takeout. We are not talking about a big course of 23 lectures. We are thinking of series of half an hour, 3 to 4 videos, which could be used by bishops and priests and NGOs, climate active NGOs, to talk about this issue, okay? And we just got started on this, and I want to tell you how that idea also grew from this series of meetings. So this was a paper we wrote, Das Gupta from Social Science, myself from the Academy, and Archbishop Minerath from France, who he co-organized that meeting in 2014, and Chancellor Rondo. What we concluded there is finding ways to develop a sustainable relationship with our planet requires ultimately also a moral revolution. The key there is moral revolution, right? So clearly, as scientists, we don't have the authority to talk about moral issues. So that is where religious institutions can and should take the lead on bringing about such a new attitude towards creation. And you can see this is a photograph from this meeting exactly in this hall. We brought here, this was focusing on public health. Okay, we had physicians, health practitioners, but we had leaders from the evangelical community from the US and the other parts of Christian community. And first in this meeting, we concluded with unchecked climate change and air pollution, health issue is the most fundamental thing of climate change we have to focus on. We have tried sacrificing polar bears. We have tried sacrificing coral reefs. Everything we have tried, nothing is working. So now we want to come back to it's your health, which it's going to impact, right? So in that meeting, we had an impromptu meeting of the science and faith communities. And there you see our Governor Jerry Brown addressing the audience. We had political leaders. And many here were in that meeting. I was encouraged at the level of discussions we had to start on this project of trying to reach out to those in America who have difficulty accepting the science. If everything else fails, I conclude my lecture with this from Darwin to persuade my students. It's not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. So I tell my students, change if you want to survive. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ram, for your exemplary, pithy, and important work. And I note that we owe you 7 minutes. I think you have extra credit for your very pithy presentation. Homo sapiens sapiens has become a geologic force. It is in this context that the youth remind us of climate change, unchecked climate change, sustainable consumption, and an ethic of care for and with the environment is so much at the center of the clamoring of youth the world over for the 3 fundamental pillars. If we listen carefully to the youth, as the Holy Father reminds us, we must do 3 lessons have become very, very clear. The environment, climate change, sustainable consumption is a point of entry into curiosity and the scientific method. Children and youth today, the world over, are clamoring for science at a time when our politicians are swimming in magical thinking and the antithesis of what a scientific orientation requires of all of us. Second, as Carola has reminded us, the quest of children and youth for climate change education is a point of entry into the ethics of what is unfolding before our very eyes. The work of Professor Ramanathan and so many of our other colleagues in the Pontifical Academy of Sciences is perfectly clear on the following. The top 1 billion people on Earth are responsible for producing the great pollution, and the price of which today is being absorbed by the bottom 3 billion people on Earth, folks that have nothing to do with creating the kinetic vectors that are presenting the existential challenge of our time. So again, climate change education is a point of entry into science and the scientific method and into curiosity, fundamental for all teaching and learning. Second, it is a point of entry into a reflection, into a conversation for the ethical issues that are at stake in the current kinetic momentum. Third, and as important, it is a point of entry into youth agency, into mobilizing youth for their environment, for their future, for the future of our shared environment, our fragile environment, our planet moving forward. Thank you so much. We are in time, and we now have a period of discussion, so I invite our colleagues to pose questions of the panelists, and the floor is open. Thank you.